Does divorce make you happier? Has it worked out for you? 0207 862 2222, that's the number. Do give me a ring. We all know not all marriages work. In fact, nearly 30% do end in divorce in the UK, and that separating can be incredibly painful and difficult. But is it sometimes for the best in the long run? You've had a couple of divorces.
I've had a couple.
Washed up a couple along the way.
I was sitting here quietly thinking, oh boy, oh boy. Yes, I've been married 3 times on the current Mr. McLean. Sorry, Nick, I'm only joking. No, he is currently longest serving husband. So, you know, I'm doing really well with this one.
Yeah.
But joking aside, it's awful. It's really
Divorce.
awful.
Yeah.
And, you know, I married my childhood sweetheart first time round. We met at school. I sat behind him in geography and thought he was lovely. And we were together for a really long time. And then when that ended, my world broke apart. It was horrific. I became agoraphobic. I couldn't leave the house. I felt just such a sense of loss. It was horrific. And my second marriage ending, there was such a sense of shame because I've done it again. You know, and by the time I met Nick on a blind date that I didn't want to go on because I thought, I'm clearly not cut out for this. So what's the point? I'd rather be at home. You know, some people ask you, how do you get over divorce? I enrolled in agricultural college and did a garden design course. That's what I did.
Good idea.
I wanted to do something that was practical, it was physical, had nothing to do with romance, it would just make me feel good. So I went back to college. Something to keep me busy and was creative and didn't involve a man. And I know that sounds really quite odd, but that massively helped. So that by the time we met, I was me. To me, I see a good relationship as like a Venn diagram. There's you, there's them, and then there's the relationship in the middle. But you meet as equals. And I realised before what I'd done was really I'd taken broken people and tried to fix them because I'm a very loving, generous person. But that's on me. That's not on them.
I don't think I need to sully this programme by going through all the stuff about my divorce again. It was 26 years ago. But I felt very much what you felt, like absolutely shattered by it. I hadn't seen it coming. I didn't expect. I thought I was happily married. And I don't think to this day, honestly, I've ever got over that shock. It was cataclysmic. I felt like my blood had frozen in my veins. I really could breathe for about 3 years from just the sheer shock of it. And you might say, Vanessa, you can't still be shocked. For God's sake, snap out of it. And I've done my best. But sometimes I don't think you quite ever re-emerge as the person you were before. You know, it's been the central kind of relationship, and it's a big shock. But I know somebody who can help and somebody who knows a little bit about what I'm talking about, and that's Eve Stanway, who is an author and breakup and divorce coach. Eve, thank you for joining me. You also didn't see your divorce coming at all, did you?
I didn't. No, I didn't. And I should have in some ways, but I didn't see it.
Why do you say you should have?
So it did, blindsided me.
Why should you have? What could you have noticed but you didn't?
I think I'd grown up and my parents had gone through a divorce, and I'm a psychotherapist and I work with people, and I wasn't really fully paying attention to what was happening at home, I don't think. And I think for me particularly, I just didn't have the strategies to be able to tackle the difficult conversations that were going on. So I just thought I could put my head in the sand, and I couldn't.
Right. And so the marriage did come to an end, and you were, just as Andrew described, shattered. You were absolutely nuked by it, weren't you? And so, but you have found a way, as old Boris Johnson used to say, to build back better, haven't you? And how did you do it?
I think so. I think kind of following on a bit what Andrew said, that it's finding something to do with your time and finding some training or finding some purpose, because when it happens, it is cataclysmic, as you've said, and it kind of takes your future away. The future that you thought you were going to have isn't there anymore.
Nodding, yes, we agree.
And then you have to create another future, really.
Can I jump in here as well?
Yes, of course.
I instigated getting divorced, and it's also cataclysmic, and you're so riddled with grief and failure and all of that. People tend to think that if you're the one who actually makes the decision and is the bad guy, if you like, that maybe it doesn't hurt. But actually it still does, because you had an idea of exactly what you're saying, that you have an idea of what your future was going to be. I thought I was going to get old with my husband.
Yes.
And it did not work out that way. Do I regret it? No, I did the right thing, but it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt.
Yes, it's very, very painful. So you say, you know, focus on something else, give yourself something else to do, etc. But what is the kind of advice you give as a breakup and divorce coach when people come to you saying what we've all said, that you know, the future that you envisage you're not going to have, that you're not going to have those wonderful moments which I always dreamt of, where, for example, your first grandchild's born and you're there with your actual husband, the grandfather of those grandchildren together. You're never going to have that. When your children graduate university or whatever it is they're doing, you're never going to be there together as a unit ever. You're never going to have what you hoped you would have.
No.
How do you reconcile them to that?
I think part of this is separating. People often are quite embattled, or they're very hurt, or they're very distressed. And it's about separating that there are two people involved in a relationship, more if there are children. And everybody's got a perception of events. And a lot of what I do is kind of encourage people to draw back a little bit and look at the problem. And the problem is, if we don't get on within the marriage, then what we're going to need to do is find out how to get on within the divorce and separation. And a lot of that is about de-escalating language. And it's just it's a thing that happens. It's an awful thing that happens, but it is a thing that happens. And once we can kind of calm that down a little bit, and people recover from divorce and breakup, there's life afterwards. And that life can be a good life. And it can be better for the children as well, than living in a very kind of tense environment that's unhappy.
Eve, thank you. Thank you very much. Let's go to the callers. Let's talk to Robin. Robin's on the line in Gloucestershire. Always lovely to hear from you, Robin. You've been divorced for 30 years and it's been good, has it? It's been a good development.
I keep ringing you. I'm being a nuisance. But yes, I think life can begin after a divorce. I didn't have the equipment emotionally to deal with my own issues. Neither did my ex-wife. So it's taken a long time to actually deal with that and deal with that not being together. So, yeah, I've never been happier. I think, yeah.
How long would you say? How long would you say, Robin, it took you to start to feel that this was a positive development and to feel better? And just what sort of issues were you not capable of dealing with then that you've sort of addressed since?
I was somebody that grew up with not having any sense of who I was, and when I was invisible to myself. That's the way my life was. So it took a long time. About 20 years ago, I began to really start to find me, I suppose, and established that I had a right to be here. And it's been great ever since.
And tell me about the good stuff that's happened since, the things you enjoy about life.
Oh, just being. I mean, I can enjoy doing what's called nothing. I mean, all right, nothing and everything, but tootling around, talking to you, watching you, gardening, mucking about.
Well, I love talking to you, and you never, ever have to apologise for calling this programme. I'm here every day, and I'm very, very happy to talk to you. Plus, I find you an interesting gentleman. He's very charming and interesting gentleman. I've never seen him, but I like talking to him on the telly. It's excellent. Robin, thank you very much indeed. So the idea of divorce as something that isn't always dire and cataclysmically wretched, that's something that I suppose we've all got to get used to.
Well, in the famous words of Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin, you know, the conscious uncoupling. I mean, that started very much this sort of climate of exactly what you said. Divorce can be okay for the children if it is done in this sort of amicable way, which is what the no-fault divorce law in 2022 was hoping to bring in. But I think, you know, no matter how one partner is absolutely devoted and committed to their other half, working through all problems, you know, it doesn't matter if the other partner doesn't want it to work. But the thing I've noticed with my divorce friends is when one partner's decided to end the marriage, they've had years to think about it. So when they deliver that news to that person who knocks them for six out of the blue, one of my friends was married for 32 years, childhood sweetheart, out of the blue it came with no warning sign. You know, the husband had already planned his future and decided what he was going to do and landed this bomb, and she was like, her whole world fell apart. And it's the fear of not being able to visualise a future. And we were just talking about grandchildren, you know, that idea that to be grandparents to your grandchildren together, that whole journey, really tough. But to find yourself and realise who you are outside of the home and out of the marriage is a wonderful thing too, and it can be good for couples.
Well said, very beautifully described. And I really feel for your friend because I feel like I walked in her shoes. My gosh, all right.